the most important thing about building relationships is that you give more than you take, because so many people are, they want to get what they can from you. They're not as eager to give. And I always, when I meet new business women, I just met someone new yesterday, and I made sure before we hung up that I said, what can I do for you?
Welcome to Making It to Market, the podcast where we discuss everything about taking your product or service idea through to commercialization. I'm your host, Dahlia, Kelada. What happens if you start a business, then for whatever reason you have to shut it down? What do you do next? Today, we'll be hearing the story of one entrepreneur who found herself in this exact situation. She had to rely not only on the strong relationships that she has built over time, but more so on the personal brand that she has carefully cultivated, both of which were instrumental as she successfully transitioned from a store owner to her next project, business consulting. She'll also share some lessons learned. Guess what? At the end of today's episode, we're featuring an indie musical artist. You don't want to miss it. Information, links, and a transcript from today's episode are available in the show notes. Let's get into it. Joining me today is an industry expert you have got to meet. Not only has she been a business owner herself, managing a brick and mortar, but she's also been behind the scenes helping to cultivate other business owners, influencers, and public figures through her executive coaching and reputation management programs. She's an uber creative marketer helping those small to medium-sized businesses and individuals establish strategic social media marketing, public relations, and inbound marketing programs. Her mission is to help companies achieve brand awareness and increase bottom line profits through her consulting expertise. Today's guest is the owner and creative business consultant at Central 515 Consulting out of Houston, Texas. I've personally known this guest for 10 years now and have witnessed her true compassion to see businesses and people succeed. She really does care about your success and growth. Sherry Eichberger, welcome to the show.
Welcome, and thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
I'm super happy you're on. You're the first person I thought of when I thought to create this podcast. I said, Sherry is the first person I have to reach out to. So I'm so glad and honored that you're here.
I love it. Thank you.
So before we get started, is it true that you've been in 3 horror films?
Yes. Actually, they're very maybe B- films, but yes, I have. And so you can definitely find me on IMDb, or is it DB?
IMDb.
IMDb. You can see what a pro I am. But yeah, the only caveat I had when asked to be in these films is I cannot be murdered or murder anyone. So I am in 3 horror films, but I do not murder, or do I get murdered?
Oh, that's funny. How did you even get started into that?
So 2 of my really, really good friends are filmmakers. They have a film company, and they're super, super creative. They've made many films and won many awards. And they were both teaching at the high school that I worked at. One is a photography expert and an author, and the other one is a musician and a writer, and they're just super creative, and
Wow.
they made these films.
I love having people in my life that are creative like that, or just have a unique skill set that I don't have. It's just nice to have that diversity in my friend group. It's kind of cool.
I love being around creative people. Yeah, for sure.
Well, you're super creative yourself. So, I mean, that's where you thrive.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So, Sherry, when I met you, you had your own store. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience, that store, what you did, what drove you to create that, and maybe what you did before that led you up to creating a store?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I've always been an entrepreneur my entire life. Going back, my earliest entrepreneurial memory venture was probably around 8 years old. So I've always been an entrepreneur, but for many years I was in banking, and then I had my 2 children and I stayed at home most of the time. I still created businesses that were conducive to being a stay-at-home mom during that time. And then I got into teaching early childhood, then working in the high school with high school age children. And then I had this vision after I lost a couple good friends to leukemia in their 30s. It really made a mark on me about, is there really a place besides Whole Foods where you can go, and if you want to live a healthy, lifestyle, where can you go to shop for everything, like a one-stop shop? And there just wasn't a place like that. So I created one. I had a vision, created a store called 1 Green Street in West University in Houston. And we were extremely authentic. We carried everything from makeup to mattresses. I like to say all good for people, good for planet. And even the store itself was LEED certified, the only LEED certified retailer at the time, which is Leaders in Energy and Efficiency Design. It's like the gold standard in green building. So even our space itself was clean. There was, no VOC paints, and it was just a whole different vibe and experience. And I did that. I ran that store, every aspect of it, from marketing to, sweeping the floors for 4 years. And unfortunately, I think we were ahead of our time, or so most people say, because we were a beloved concept. We got lots of press. The mayor came and met me, toured the store. But we kind of ran out of time and money.
Yeah.
And so we had to close the store. But during that time, I built so many relationships, kind of built my personal brand separate from my store brand, which someone really wise advised me to do early on, which just meant that I did some speaking. I was authentic in my relationships, whether I was nurturing or starting or enhancing relationships. And so when I closed the store, I was able to leverage some of those relationships when starting my current venture, which is my consulting business. And I still work with and partner with many people that I met during the time that I had my store. So I kind of took everything I learned from both my successes and failures owning a brick and mortar business and use those tools now to help other small to medium sized businesses. And I lean on a lot of the relationships that I built during those 4 years, running 1 Green Street as well.
Yeah, it's hard to be successful at anything without having relationships and, not burning bridges, but also getting through some really tough times together. For example, you and I've known you for 10 years. That's a
Yes.
relationship that I'm really proud of. I mean, we might not have been in touch every single day or every single
Yep.
month, but just to know Sherry's there and Dahlia's there, and the relationships that you've built that you just explained, you can't, I don't know. What is your belief on like having a success program in your life you can't have it without building relationships?
I believe that you cannot. I think to have any success in life, you can't do it yourself, right? You have to have sidekicks and relationships and different kinds of people in your life. And I will say, I don't burn bridges, but I have over, the course of the last 10, 15 years with these 2 businesses I started, there have been a couple bridges that have been burnt only because I'm human and people are human, and owning a business is emotional. There's a lot that goes into it. I don't want to say burning bridges like I'm an awful person, but maybe I was in the moment and I didn't handle something the way that I wanted to. That's minuscule compared to the strong relationships that I build. But I just think those are also teachable moments, right? Those are also moments where you're like, I should have handled this differently. And going forward, if this situation arises again, I will be better. I will do things differently. So I think, it happens to everybody, but I don't think you can be successful in life in any way, shape, or form without healthy relationships and
I
people
totally
surrounding
agree.
you.
I absolutely agree. And they might not necessarily be the same experience or expertise that you have. Just even if they're different, like for me, for example, formulating, there's not a whole lot of people that do what I do. So it's hard for me to have peers, but I still have other business owner peers. I have customers. Like these are all different positions in my life that impact and support me, uplift me, and are there for me. So it might not necessarily be that you need somebody who does exactly what you do, but just that diversity.
Yes.
How do relationships affect your personal brand?
That's a great question. Well, I think that for me to grow as a personal brand, I don't advertise my consulting business, and it'll be 8 years in this July. I've only worked word of mouth. So what does that tell you? That tells you that because I'm trustworthy, because I'm a good communicator, because I do what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it, um, that resonates with people. Therefore, when they're talking to a friend or a colleague and they're saying, oh man, I really need to hire a marketing person, or I really need to do a little PR on this new venture, my name comes to mind, because they believe in me and I've proven that I am who I say I am. And so I think that's really been great for me, for a personal brand, is because I'm very authentic, I'm very trustworthy, I'm a great communicator. I've met a lot of people with amazing skills. They might be a great designer, they might be a great website builder, they might even be a great connector, but they're not a great communicator. And I think to
Mm,
be successful in business, you really
yeah.
have to either yourself be a great communicator or hire people that are great
Yes.
communicators.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been told that over and over and over again by clients, how much they appreciate, the turnaround time on projects, me getting back to them right away. I always want every single one of my clients to feel like they're my only client.
Yes.
And the only way to do that is to make sure that you are communicating properly and giving them the attention that they need and deserve. So I may have 8 clients, but I want them to think they're my only client.
Yeah, and that goes back to building the relationships. Yeah, I feel like I try to establish that type of connection with my customers too. They have my cell phone. We text each other. I answer 99% of the time when they call me, I make them feel like you said, like they're the only customer. And that builds trust, that builds that
Yes.
friendship. It's not just an exchange of goods and services. It's a relationship. And I think people
Yeah.
need to really embrace the relationship and stop thinking about the transactional approach, because transactional is fine. It's just not sustainable.
That's right.
So, what is a personal brand and why does it even matter?
Well, I think we even in a daily basis, we invest in people and companies and businesses that we like, that we trust. And I think it's no different in the consulting world or in the world that you're in or the industry that you're in. I mean, I go to my pharmacist and I trust all of my medications with a certain pharmacist, because not just because they went to pharmacy school and they know what they're doing. They know my name when I walk
Mm-hmm.
up to the
Oh,
counter. They know that, they ask how
yes.
my first grandchild is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I want to talk about that too at some point, is about relationships. Relationships, there's a range, right? So there's like your business partner, your husband, your spouse, your sister, your family, the closest people. But then there's also that person, the postman or the at the postal, where if you're someone where you're dropping off packages, that always smiles, knows your name, like,
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. You can say, oh my gosh, I'm late on getting this out, and he gives you a wink and says, I'm putting it, I'm taking it to the truck right now for you.
Yeah.
Like, it's like those relationships, like it's not just like the person that you want something from or need something from. It's just the smallest
Oh, it's
relationship,
so true.
with the postal thing. And so I think a personal brand, it just goes back to what I just keep saying is, people know me, they like me, they trust me. I'm authentic, I'm transparent, I'm caring. I create boundaries, but I'm also accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really helped me to create this consulting company, because when the doors closed to One Green Street, I was still open for business
Because
as a
you're the
personal
brand.
brand.
Yes. That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
And yeah, so I don't know if that makes
And you
sense,
can
but
take your brand, that reputation. I guess you can equate a brand with your reputation.
yes,
Mm-hmm. You can take that anywhere.
anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So when it comes to consulting with other professionals, for example, or other business owners, how do you what is how do you teach them to prioritize? How is prioritizing play in your consulting practice?
It depends what they need to prioritize. So, um, what I like to do in the beginning, I've kind of shared this with you before I even hit the ground running with a client, whether they just need straight consulting, executive coaching, PR, social media help, whatever it is, I'd like to do kind of a loose interview, almost kind of like what we're doing. I really need to know, because I sometimes when dealing with a new client who needs consulting, they think they need one thing, but they really need another
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yes.
So I have to ask questions, number one, and then I also have to listen to them because I can't really tell them what to prioritize till I really understand their business, what their goals are, where they are now compared to where they want to be. And once I get a good some good clarity about that, then I can tell them, what to prioritize. Or you're not giving this as much attention as you should, or you're
Mm-hmm.
spending too much time on this. This is not going to increase your bottom line, but
Mm-hmm.
this will. And so each situation is different because I have a very diverse roster of clients. So it just depends. Working with an individual influencer versus a nonprofit, it's just different. So, but to me, it's always about asking the right questions and listening to the client. Then I have a jump off point from there.
So it sounds like you might be customizing your approach depending on the circumstance, the customer, where they are in their business, their goals. Do you help them establish goals, or do they usually come to you with goals?
I can. I've probably only helped maybe a dozen clients with goal setting over the years. It's always interesting to me because I'm a goal setting person. I taught my children to be goal setters. I've always been that way, like handwritten, personal. My husband and I have marital goals. We each have our personal goals. We have our goals for our home. I have my goals for my business, and they're always written down because there's power in that. But I'm always shocked at even some of the most successful clients I work with that have never written down a goal, that don't really understand goal setting. And it's not that complicated, to be honest, but I think people are afraid of it because they don't really understand how to do it or why it's important.
Why is it important?
I think it's important because you can't hit a target you don't see. Like if you're trying, right? If you're trying, I mean, if you want to go from A to Z, where's Z? How are you going to
Hmm.
get there? I mean, to me, it's just like a no brainer, but that's what I always like to say. Like you have to have a goal to see, kind of get a baseline where you are now, how far you've gotten. You don't always have to reach your goal, but you have to show some kind of advancement towards your goal. And it just also reinforces that you're on the right track, that you're in motion, that you're doing something positive. So a lot of businesses don't, and people don't factor goals into their strategy. But I have helped some clients with it successfully over the years.
So if businesses sometimes don't have a goal, um, how do they, like, what should they aim for? Should they aim for like a timeline? Should they aim for a 10-year goal? What's when you don't have goals in place, what is a realistic expectation as far as setting goals, as far as timelines go, and maybe measuring those goals and the outcomes?
Right. I think a lot of companies have like benchmarks, and I think they might say it's a lot of it is tied to bottom line profits and finances. And so maybe I'm saying they don't have goals because most companies that are trying to earn money, they'll say, well, we made 10,000 last year, we want to make 15,000 this year and 20,000 the next year. They're very basic, benchmarks or goals, but I don't really see companies looking at employee retention goals, like really having some serious, well thought out goals that are far reaching, not just monetary, with retention, with employee retention, customer retention, all these other things that they should be looking at. If they get earned and press, things like that, awards, different things. There's a lot of different benchmarks and goals that companies could be setting. Instead, they're just trying to get through the day, right? So they're very reactive with the way they're running their business instead of being proactive, which is where I come in because I'm a strategic person. And so I want to look at your marketing calendar for the whole year, not, oh, today's March 31st. I guess we better decide what kind of content we're going to create for April, when it's like knocking on your door. So a lot of companies are just trying to survive. I've been there, like just trying to get through the day, especially now, shorthanded, nobody wants to work. They're not thinking about goal setting. They're not thinking about planning 6 months or a year in advance and what that looks like. So that's really where I've been able to help is I have a very strategic approach, very organized with my thoughts and ideas. And I was just going to say, you're just making me think that I wish I had more goal setting projects because I think it's super important. Yeah.
You're right. Some people who get caught up in the day to day forget to set their goals. What advice do you give to somebody who just doesn't seem to catch up? Like, how do you get them to the other side? Like, what's your advice to those people?
So I've worked with, I've worked with companies and business owners that just seem like they're on that hamster wheel. And
Yes.
honestly and truly, sometimes it's just their business acumen. Like it's just the way they run their personalities and the way they run a business. So in that case, it's time to take a hard look and maybe hire somebody
Mm,
that, can get you organized,
yeah.
whether that's me or somebody that you hire within the company full time that is a project manager, or there's some business owners that just don't know how to organize and propel their company forward. And but there's basic things like I said, like goal setting, creating benchmarks, actually sitting down and having like content calendars and being very deliberate and intentional with content that you're creating and making sure that all areas of business are covered and that you're running on all cylinders. So it just depends. Like I said, everybody is so different. But some people have the heart and the desire to run a business. They have a great idea, but they have no business running a business. That sounds horrible.
Yeah.
They really need help.
Yeah. Who shouldn't be in business? Describe that personality or the lack of expertise, maybe. Like, who should not be in business?
I think somebody who does not have drive, somebody that does not have passion, determination, drive, perseverance, because running a business is hard and you have to really love it. And like when I had my store, I don't remember a single day, and I was there 6 days a week from sun up to sundown, not jumping out of the bed, so excited to go in, even
Yes.
if we had zero sales for the day,
Yeah.
because I was so passionate about what I was doing. And if you don't have that, then on the really bad days, you'll want to quit, or you
Mhm.
won't continue to give everything you have, or you won't be lucid when it comes to what your needs are and where the gaps are and how you need help, or you won't be as quick to pivot, or you know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
feel like I've had people tell me, Sherry, your business was just run on passion and determination. And I think that's true in some
Oh,
case.
and you could feel it like as like a patron coming into your store. As soon as you walk up the lawn into opening the door, like the whole experience from the whole sensory experience from the smell to just the energy,
Yeah.
like you really could feel a different energy and the colors and the placement of everything. It was just wow. I mean, you did a really good job with that place. And I
Thank
miss it.
you.
Yeah, I miss it. But
I
yeah,
do too. I
I
do too, girl.
that's
And
a
I still have people. I mean, I cannot tell you. I mean, people in the press, because I do like PR and stuff. And so like I'll reach out to someone that used to cover me at my store for another client, and they'll be like, man, I loved covering your
um,
store. And
maybe it'll come
people all the
back.
time.
Maybe you'll bring it back one day. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? But yeah.
But yeah, I think people go into business because they might have an idea that was successful in their own household, but they might not package
Mhm.
it well enough or
Mhm.
create it well enough to actually sell it. And I think what matters more to me, in my opinion, just being a marketing consultant in my past life, is your brand, your personal brand. You can have the most
Mhm.
amazing, shiny, beautiful, the product works, everything is great about it, but if your personality sucks and you're not
Yeah.
personable and you're not responsive and you're just not pleasant, I don't want to work with you because people want to do
Uh-huh.
business with people they like, not
That's
necessarily
right.
with the product that they're purchasing. So personal brand's critical.
Yes, with people they like, know, and trust, right? That's the thing. I remember I was doing a holiday shopping event. I was curating vendors for a client, and there was a salsa brand that's a Houston-based family-owned salsa brand, and I'm telling you, their salsa is the best I've ever had. And we had them
Is that the one that has the green, they have a green sauce and then they've got like the chipotle?
You were.
I
You were at the
Oh
event
yes, I know
that
what
I'm
you're talking
talking
about.
about.
Their stuff is good. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Their stuff is great. They're local, and I'm all about that. And the owner of the company, was the most unpleasant business owner that I've ever worked with or come across. And I thought, no matter how much I love this salsa, I will never buy it again, nor will I recommend them for a tabling event or anything of the sort. He was so off-putting, like you
Mm.
said. So you could have a great product, I don't know. I don't know why people do that, go into business and then treat
Well,
their
I think
patrons
they
that
they
way.
fail to understand that the experience that people are going to have is not just with your product, it's with you because
Hmm.
you're the brand as well. And I think people don't understand
Hmm.
that you are just as much the brand as that glass container with some red tomatoes crushed up inside. It's the same
Yes,
thing. It's the same brand.
very true.
Yeah,
Very
it's
true.
okay. So, what advice do you give to someone? Well, let me before I ask you about the advice, when do businesses fail? Other than
Mm.
other than the lack of relationships and the brand personality of the person who's maybe running it or all the representatives or brand ambassadors, other than that element, where do brands or companies fail?
I think that there are a lot of reasons that brands fail. I know, for me, it took me a while to not say the word fail with my store, because I don't want to look at it as a failure, because we touched many lives. We did many great things with our store. We just ran out of time and money. We just couldn't, even though we were starting to turn a profit, a very tiny profit after 4 years, we just ran out of money. We couldn't keep putting money until we turned the profit we needed to keep going. But like I say, like stores, like big stores, like Palais Royal, or like some of these other stores that just, they've been around forever and they go away. They just fail to pivot. They just
Uh,
fail to change.
uh-huh.
There's something ego wise going on with the people running it, that they just think they're the greatest and they don't need to change or pivot, and then they just end up dying
Yeah,
away.
they don't
Like
innovate.
they don't innovate. If you look at
Mm-hmm.
like Target, and Target was right along with some of these other stores, and look at how they've like
Mm-hmm.
reinvented themselves, and so I think just the willingness to kind of pivot and try new things, and when things aren't working, take a hard look, put your ego aside, make changes. And the companies that refuse to do that, they fail. I think sometimes just capital, or lack of capital in our case. And then I also think some people just shouldn't go into business. Like you said, I think people think it's easier than it is. They think, hey, if I create this, the people will just come.
Oh yeah.
They don't realize, what's involved in
Yes.
marketing and all the noise and competition out there, and how do you, cut through all of that. So I think there's a lot of reasons. Honestly, I can really only speak to myself. I have There's only two clients I've worked with in 8 years that have closed their doors, since I've been doing this, that I've worked with. And one of them was a franchise owner, a mother and son, who refused. They hired me and I worked with them for over 2 years, and they just didn't do anything I told them to do. And it was really hard for me because they're paying me. I'm doing my job and my part, but the follow through is not there. And at the end of the day, they had to sell the franchise and get out of business. So that's kind of, I guess, what I was saying earlier about not wanting to like pivot or listen to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
They just should not have been running a business. They thought it would be easy, and it was a franchise. So they probably thought, oh, the
It's
work's
already
already
ready
been
there.
done. I just
Yeah.
gotta. And so I just think there's misconceptions about what it takes to run a
Oh,
business too.
agreed.
And some people just aren't cut out for it.
Agreed. So what do you say to those people who have maybe closed a business down and have had to reinvent themselves or start over? What advice do you have to those folks?
That's a great question, because that's exactly what I did. I thought that One Green Street was my purpose, and then when I had to close the doors, I was devastated, and again searching and seeking why, and what if that was my purpose. What do I do now? And I think it took me just a minute, but I realized that I was just meant to be a business owner, and so I just kind of pulled up my bootstraps. And I'm a seeker. I'm always looking for signs. I'm always seeking knowledge. relationships. I'm just a seeker. And so I decided my passion and determination did not go away when the store closed. So I just need to take that and channel it somewhere else. And I am also a person that my goal in life is to help people.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I take all my gifts and talents, my passion, my determination, everything I've learned from this past experience, instead of curling up in a ball, crying and blaming the world, how can I take all of that and use it for good? And that's why I created my consulting business. So I think it takes a strong person to do that too, because when you close a business, it's like losing a child. Like it's
It
painful. I
is.
mean,
Yeah.
when you put everything you have emotionally, physically, financially
Yes.
into something
Mm-hmm.
and then it goes away, it's devastating. So I think it also
Mm.
takes a strong person to say, okay, what am I going to do now? I'm not going to let this get the best of me. And I made a very conscious decision that I was not going to be that person. And I knew I needed to have my own business, and I created another one in my 50s, one in my 40s, one in my 50s, when
Yeah.
most people are like, yeah, I think I'll retire.
Yeah. No retiring
So,
for an entrepreneur. It doesn't even happen. It will never
no,
happen. Our brains do
never.
not rest.
That's right.
I'm with Sherry Eichberger of Central515.com. Stick around till after the break. You don't want to miss the discussion about accepting failure and managing your ego's expectations. I guess when you're pivoting in business and any entrepreneur has to accept that things might fail. And I know you don't like that word. How do you define failure and rejection?
Mm, that's a good question. It's not that I don't like the word fail. I just don't think that my first business failed. I just had to reframe how that ended. And I just couldn't look at it as a failure because I've had so many people tell me, what an impact it made on their life and how can that be a failure? But
Mm-hmm.
failure and rejection as an entrepreneur, 100%. And I think for a true entrepreneur, that drives you. So if you're not really an entrepreneur and you don't have that entrepreneurial spirit, it could crush you easily. But if you truly are an entrepreneur and you have that spirit within you, it will do the opposite, which it did for me. It drove me. I thought, no, I am my own personal brand. The doors to the
Yes.
store are closed, but I'm still open.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do with what God gave me? So
And you're innovating. You're pivoting and innovating, which is
pivoting,
yes.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And what a waste and I mean, some people have to do this. I happen to have a very supportive husband in every way. And I was able to kind of say, okay, I'm going to do something else. I'm not the sole breadwinner, but honestly, I just knew I had to do something else and just started praying about it and continue to seek. But to me anyway, for my situation, what a waste I think it would have been if I would have just said, oh, that was horrible. What a failure. I'm going to go be a greeter at Walmart. No offense to the greeters at Walmart, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What a waste, because I still have so much to give, and I've helped already so many, like almost 200 businesses in the last 8 years. And none of that would have happened if I would have just, said, that was a failure. I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's always failure. I mean, there's always some sense of, okay, that didn't work. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I don't think people should think of failure as necessarily a negative thing.
Right.
It's more of a closure to a chapter, maybe,
Yes.
and a beginning of something else.
Yes.
But I think too, you have to be very self-aware as far as setting your ego to the side, because I think the ego can drive you into very very negative places emotionally, mentally. It can really drive you down and not allow you to get back up again. What do you think about ego and having a personal brand and transitioning in life? And
Well, I have to tell you a quick story. So what I didn't say is, when I knew I was going to be closing One Green Street, I thought, what can I do right away that's likened to what I've been doing? And so I applied for a position at Whole Foods, which was like a competitor, kind of like in the same vein of what I was doing: sustainable, clean, non-toxic, healthy products, and so on. and I applied for a buyer in their beauty, supplements, health and beauty. And I was like, that is perfect. I've been doing that for 4 years. I've been buying products and I
Mm-hmm.
love it. And I applied for it and got it immediately. I was so excited. And it was not at all what I thought it was going to be. In fact, I'll never forget one day they had me dusting shelves. I did very little buying, and everything was controlled. So it was basically just we always have to have 12 vitamin D bottles on the shelf. There's only 6, Sherry, you need to order 6 more. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, anyway. And every time I tried to suggest something outside of the box, I was kind of like silenced. So anyway, but one day I was sitting on the floor after owning my own business, being on TV and all these things for 4 years. I was sitting on the floor with a literal duster, and one of my old clients from One Green Street says, Sherry, and I'm literally looking up. I'm on the ground. So even just the whole dynamic. And she's like, hi. I'm like, hi, I'm dusting. Talk about being humbled. Like in that moment, I was so humbled. And it was just one of those defining moments. And that was also one of those moments where I was like, I cannot work for anybody else. Like I really need to be doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And the person was really nice, but it was just one of those moments. I was like, this is not what I'm meant to do. Sit on the floor and dust a shelf at Whole Foods after, creating a startup from scratch, like this is not right. So yeah, I mean, you do have to humble yourself. I think that kind of goes back to businesses that fail because they refuse to change or pivot or, whatever. And so you have to humble yourself and kind of put your ego aside to many times to succeed and to move forward and be successful in business, for sure.
Well, you kind of have to go through some of those not so fun experiences to be who you are. You don't become Sherry the way you are now without having been sitting on the floor at Whole Foods dusting or having your previous customer come and talk to you. Like it makes you more well-rounded. I don't know if that's the right word, but it teaches you some lessons and makes you prepared for the next thing. It's just different levels of life that you have to go through.
Yes. And I feel like you probably experience rejection having a product, right? That you are trying to get to market. And
I've had rejection my entire life. Like, like it's never ending. It's every day, Before I even started my business, I was doing technical marketing and brand management and consulting. And a lot of those industries were male dominated. And so I felt rejected just based on my gender. People thought I was 16, even though I was 30 something, I lacked a lot. I was probably more tenured as far as experience goes than a lot of people that I've worked with. But I never got that respect. So I've had to work harder and, fight harder and stay longer and act like a man, be like a man, just to play in the fields, the same fields. So I mean, I'm preaching to all those women out there because every single woman has gone through what I'm saying. So yeah, I think I've been groomed to handle rejection and discrimination and, why you're a woman, why would you come up with an idea like that? I've had many people when I created Salve, I've told my idea to many people, and every single time someone said, oh, that's a terrible idea, or that's not going to work, or it was always a man. I always got that rejection from a man. And it was the women that were uplifting and positive and promoting. They might think it's a terrible idea too, but yet they were still my champion, my cheerleader. Yes. Yeah. So the rejection for me is continuous. And, I set very high expectations for myself too. And so, and I don't care, honestly, I really don't care what people think about me. Either you like me or you do. And if you do, great. And if you don't, I don't care. Because at the end of the day, I'm living with myself and I'm facing myself. So what matters is my experience here. And people come and go in your life in different phases. They're not the same people that rejected you today are probably gone. They're not, you don't see them anymore. Right. And it's okay to delete those negative people because they're not serving you. So move on. But as far as rejection goes, I feel like I set goals for myself that I might not meet. And I've got my own personal rejection. I've got my own personal defeats, but that's okay because I'm like Gumby. I don't know if people old enough know who Gumby is, but you know,
Yeah.
you're flexible and you bend and you just kind of go with the flow. And I think that's necessary for an entrepreneur anyway. But I think understanding and, like you said, being humble and maybe putting the ego to the side sometimes helps you get through some of that rejection and get through some of those really hard times, because there's good days, there's bad days, there's not always good days, there's not always
Yeah,
bad days, and sometimes
that's
you'll
right.
find success and sometimes you won't, and you know that's normal. Like, why would you expect it to be there all the time? You just can't.
Yes, that's right.
I
Absolutely.
talk too much, Sherry.
No, you don't. Girl, I talk too much. We're the same. We're the same.
But yeah, you know, I'm a passionate entrepreneur. It doesn't matter what we're selling. It could be a service, it could be
Yeah.
a product. You know, there's a sense of failure and rejection in all of these. People are going to tell you no. People are going to tell you your stuff sucks. It doesn't work. But you can go back.
Yeah.
That goes back to that relationship. Well, let me figure out how to make it better. And then they see you fail. That's okay. They'll be forgiving because you're making an effort to remediate the problem, right? That's that
Yes.
relationship, going back to your personal brand. And see, people will remember this if I, you know, stop my business, which, you know, it could happen anytime, right? For whatever reason.
Yeah.
I can pivot to something else and people will, oh, Dahlia is that one that was responsive. She always, you know, if she didn't do something correctly, she always wanted to make it better. You know, I think that brand image carries with you regardless if you are a marketing consultant or formulating a product or
A
building
hundred
something from
percent.
scratch. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's really the brand and the story really starts with you as the person, and it's exhibited through whatever medium you're selling, with service, product,
Yes.
whatever.
But I also believe that your personal brand, you don't put it on and take it off. It's who you are 24/7 around your family, around your friends, around your neighbors, around everyone.
Ooh, like that.
Because I don't just want to get your business. I want to be an example for my children. I want to inspire other women in my neighborhood or at my church. I want my personal brand to be for everyone, not just for
Mm,
business. And something I definitely want to say that I have learned is the most important thing about building relationships is that you give more than you take, because so many people are, they want to get what they can from you. They're not as eager to give. And I always, when I meet new business women, I just met someone new yesterday, and I made sure before we hung up that I said, what can I do for you? I don't really know you, but I know you're hustling just like I am. You might
yes.
be at a different place in your journey, but I believe in reciprocity. I believe in, if your hands are out giving, they're also out to receive. And so I'm never closed off with how I give in relationships or otherwise. I think it's very important that we don't just always, so what can I get from that person? Oh, if I'm nice to that person, then she'll give me this. Just always think like, what can I do? And then naturally people will help you. So I
Mm,
just wanted to make sure I say that.
absolutely. That's a really good point, and it's very true. And I think karma, I don't know if you believe in karma, but karma, that's karma right there.
Yeah. What goes around comes around.
I think it's also important for people to know that they can't do everything and they need to
Hmm.
know when to ask for help. Um,
Yes.
what do you think? When should people ask for help?
When something isn't working anymore, when that kind of goes back to goal setting too. You've got a goal, it's a defined goal, you're working towards it, and you're consistently not meeting your goals. Why are you not meeting your goals? Because you're maybe you're spread too thin, maybe you need to hire a marketing person, maybe you're understaffed, maybe I think it's also humbling yourself and looking at, what are my gifts and talents? I'm a creative. I learned quickly when I ran every aspect of my business. I am not a money person. Don't ask me to manage the books. I had to hire someone to do that. But I could do a front window display like nobody's business. That would
Mm-hmm.
blow your wig back. So I mean, so I had to learn really quickly, like, okay, that is not what I'm good at. I'm not going to try to be good at it. I'm just going to hand it off to someone right off the bat, so I can spend more time doing the things that I am good at.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, really early on, recognizing I can't do everything. Like you said, these are my strengths. This is what I love to do, that I'm good at. And everything else, I'm going to have to get someone else to do it for me. Because if you try to do all the things you're good at and the things you're not good at, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah. So you've been doing this consulting for quite a while now, and
Mhm.
I guess your portfolio or people like in the hospitality industry, insurance.
Mhm.
You've done a lot with public figures and entertainers and influencers. And
Yep.
of those types of clients you've had, what's been the hardest and what's been the easiest?
Good question. The easiest is when a client hires me to do events. So like a launch event or a anniversary event or whatever, because events is so heavy on the creative side, which is where I thrive, as you said earlier. Like coming up with a theme and like just executing. Also, I'm a great I'm strategic, but I'm also a great like connector and partner. So like I love pulling all kinds of different people together to make an event happen. So events is one of the hardest things that I do and time consuming, but probably what I love the most. And because I love it, it's easy for me. And probably one of the hardest is probably PR, even though I'm good at it and
It's
I like
hard.
it. Only because you can never promise people
Mm-hmm.
earned media, meaning that the press is going to like what you're selling and write about it or pick it up. And so sometimes there's disappointment associated with that on the client side. And so as good as I might be and as many connections as I have, PR is just like a kind of can be a crapshoot sometimes. And
Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
it's always nerve wracking for me. So I guess that's probably it. And I love straight consulting and coaching. I love just like these jolt sessions I told you that I do. Like I love just sitting down with somebody. Someone just hired me. She just took over and bought a new business. And she goes, I just want to meet with you 3 months in a row, 2 hours a time. And I just want to pick your brain and I want to present obstacles and things I'm dealing with and have you help me. And we're going on our second month. And I love that, like love it.
Mm-hmm.
Just sitting there and like, just, showering this person with all of my knowledge so that I can help them.
True consulting. Yeah, true
I love that.
consulting.
I love that.
So, what's
Yeah.
been the biggest or most common mistake you've come across with your clients
That they've made.
that they've made? What do you see?
The first thing that comes to mind, but probably might not be the most important or prevalent, is just not making, because a lot of what I deal with is inbound marketing, which is creating content and, putting great content out there about your business digitally and online and stuff. So I think that a lot of the businesses I work with don't take time to create original content. And um, I think part of it is they don't understand how important it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that they just don't make the time to do it. I guess maybe I'm thinking a little more about like my independent clients, like my influencers, entertainers, authors, speakers, that I guess convincing them that they need to create original content
Oh,
and
okay.
like constantly be doing that. But I also think kind of what we talked about earlier, just not goal setting and not realizing what they're working towards. And so they never really know if they're getting there or what they need to change to get there or do differently to get there, or what's working, what's not working, just not really paying attention to the
Mm.
details in their business, just trying to get through every day. And that's it.
As far as them having issues with creating original content, how much of that is that they don't know? Like, do they not have a platform, or do they not have a cultivated message that can sell? Or what's the issue?
It's a lot of different reasons. Some people, even though they're public figures, do not like to be in front of the camera. I can assist and have in creating content and give direction. It's just a lot of them still don't want to get in front of the camera. They're for one reason or another. They have a platform. Some are good at it. Some aren't. It doesn't even mean getting in front of the camera. It could mean writing. Could mean blogging. There's a lot of different ways they can create content and put it out there. And so I just am almost always finding resistance trying to get my clients to create original content.
Mm-hmm.
I can work with them, I can interview them, and I can create the content, and I've done that. But it's always best, especially if it's a video, shorter,
Mm.
long form video, if they're doing it themselves. And it's just not a priority. I think I've tried to explain the importance of it, but
Why is it that they want to do that? Is it because they're busy? They don't know how? They don't have the skill set
they
or?
don't they don't prioritize it.
Oh,
These days, especially when you're working with me, it's not about knowing how, because I'll walk my clients through it. I know exactly what they need to do and how they need to do it. I think it's just becomes not a priority. And there's just, I've done it. I've I've worn all the hats. I know there's a million other things in their mind
mm-hmm.
that they think,
Yes.
so I'm just a piece of the puzzle for them as business owners. And of course, I think my piece is the most important piece, but to them, not always the case. So I don't know. It's kind of a challenge, but
Okay, so I know we talked a little bit about failure and how maybe failure is not really can be looked at negatively. Maybe we can look at it positively. How do you define success?
I don't think there's one way to define it. Again, I keep saying this, but I think it could be monetary, of course. If you invest your money or someone else's money in a business, you definitely want to get that money back and more. So you want
Hmm.
a return on investment. And I think that is maybe one of the benchmarks of success. I think also for me is if you can help people and make people's lives better through what you're producing or what you're
Mm, I
doing.
like that.
I think that is a benchmark of success. And then I think also personal growth, like if I'm growing and I'm learning and I'm happy and I'm experiencing joy while I'm doing all these other things, I think
Hmm.
that's a benchmark of success. So I would say that, like, how are you making a difference in the world? Are you making money and getting a return? And then also how that business is affecting you personally
Yeah.
would be those three things.
And so, in your personal journey, what advice would you have given yourself, like before you even started One Green Street? Knowing what you know now, what advice would you tell yourself?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm just a big personality. So I went really big right out of the gate with One Green Street. And um, looking back, I'm not even kidding. I really wouldn't have done anything different. But what I probably should have done, and I would probably still be in business, is I should have started smaller. Should have gotten a proof of concept going, got a
Mm.
smaller space, maybe even like a little truck or a little tiny house, or I don't know, or maybe even online. Like I could have tested the concept online.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I think that's the only thing I think if I would have not just out of the gate did a build out, a 3,000 square foot build out of
Mm-hmm.
300 grand or whatever if I would have just started a little smaller, but I wanted to like go for it. I just had this vision. I know exactly what the store should look like and feel like, and I just there was no stopping me. So I can't really go
You
back.
had the
But I think,
vision.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But maybe editing the vision,
edit your edit
probably
your vision. That's pretty funny.
edit my vision a little bit. But I do think that I needed to have the store to do what I'm doing now. And what I'm doing now, I think I've told you, is I believe what I absolutely should be doing and will be doing till I can't do anything anymore. Like I can do this into my 80s and 90s
Mhm.
even if it's one client that I'm helping. So and the other thing is the store, when you own a retail store, you are married to it. Like literally, I had no life, no. And with the consulting business, I can do this anywhere. My husband and I can be on the beach in Mexico, and I can be, helping clients. So I'm doing what I'm meant to do for sure.
I'm
No
so
doubt
happy
about
to
it.
see that. And I can see in your face how your energy is so bright and you're such a beautiful person. And yeah,
Oh,
I only wish you the best, Sherry.
thank you. Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. So in your business, you've created something called a Jolt session, which is basically a 2 hour one-on-one consulting session that's very intense. What's that process like?
Yes, thank you for asking. So, I literally created the Jolt session because of the experience I had owning a business. I did hire a marketing team at one point, and all that, but it's not cheap to hire a marketing firm, an advertising firm, And some business owners, instead of doing nothing, I thought I need to come up with something where every business owner can afford it and it will make some kind of difference. And so I created the jolt session. I call it a jolt session because it's just meant to give your business a jolt. Just move the needle from where you are just ever so slightly to towards where you want to be in a small amount of time for a small amount of money. So it's $175 for 2 hours. I do I send ahead of our jolt session, I send like a questionnaire, and then we just get right into it for 2 hours. And I've had many people say, oh my gosh, I literally felt a jolt after we've had our session because they just feel energized. They're like,
Electrified.
yeah, they're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, Sherry, I just needed that little bit of something, something. And many of my jolt session clients become clients because they appreciate my expertise and business acumen, and they want to hire me on a retainer basis. And that's fine if they don't. And I've had a couple clients who've had done several jolt sessions over the years. They're
Yeah.
like, it's been a year, I need another jolt session. And that's all we
Yeah.
do is jolt
I
sessions.
love the name of it. I love how you named
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah. So they're very, very effective. I love doing them too because it really does give them that little help, little push that they need.
And
So,
it's free. I think that could be applied to anybody, regardless of where you are in your business or your career.
mhm.
I mean, even if you're just working on your personal brand, if you're an executive at a company or you're trying to get a new position in a company, somebody like Sherry can really help you. You don't even have to have a product. You are the brand. Remember
Yes,
that. So,
yes,
regardless of where you are in life, even having that re-jolting session would be very valuable. Like I definitely need something like that. I feel like I'm one of those that probably needs like it like twice a year because I need a little boost. But I think not just a boost, but it helps you kind of like get you out of your tunnel vision and helps you to kind of see things from a different perspective, that somebody is really in your corner who really wants to see you succeed and like is very passionate about your success, and not just because there's $175 invested, which by the way is nothing. But
yeah,
that is just like, it's like a taste of something that you could have, and you don't know what that taste is like until you try it. And I know Sherry's
yes.
doing I think you're doing a 30-minute free consultation, right?
I will for your listeners.
Oh,
Yes, if they
thank you.
tell me that they heard me on your show, then yes, I will do that for
Awesome.
sure.
Well, I know you've got your website, central515.com, and you can also find
Yep.
Sherry on LinkedIn. Her last name is Eichberger. Information will be in the show notes, so you can find her contact information there. But yeah, so as far as your Jolt session, is that done remotely? How do you do that?
I've done it during the pandemic. I did a couple of them through Zoom, but I mostly like to do them in person. It just helps me because I get into your environment, and sometimes there's show and tell aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's something logistic wise, like within a retail environment or a hospitality type environment that I need to be there in person to do. So I prefer to do them in person, but I have done them over Zoom. Like if you're in another state or something and you need help, I can do that. I can do it that way also.
How would you describe the customer, like like for example, if somebody's doing a Jolt session, what kind of experience would they have working through that process?
A lot of times as a business owner, your mind is all over the place because you're doing a million different things. So one of my goals is to get you completely centered and focused for that 2 hours on exactly what the issue is that you want to address. It could be more than one. It could be something where I had a mortgage company many years ago who was wanting to do a name change and a logo change. And a lot of times you have family and you have people around you, but like you said, you need a completely neutral person that knows business, that's not invested in you personally, to give you objective feedback. And sometimes that's all you need is like, I just need someone outside of my sphere of influence to tell me what they think. And so I went through the Jolt session on the name change, the logo look, the logo colors, the direction, the brand direction. And then I ended up working with this mortgage company for 2.5, almost 3 years. And I'm probably just recently going to start working with them again. So it could be something like that. But again, like the goal is always that they get something out of it. And, we're not going to change the world in 2 hours. I'm not going to solve all your business issues in 2 hours, but every single one I've done, and I've done over 100 of them, something has been accomplished in a positive way in those 2 hours.
What are some examples of the problem statements that people come to you with in a Jolt session?
So it could definitely be it could be a reputation management situation. Not really knowing. I had one client that had was struggling with Yelp reviews and the staff and how they responded and handled them. And it could be, like I said, it could be a branding issue. It could be a name change issue. It could be an employee retention issue, which I've helped, talk about staffing and rewarding and recognizing employees and how to solve some employee retention issues. It's always different, Dahlia, to be honest. It's really hard to say. But like I said earlier on in your show, I don't go into a Jolt session without some pre-work. Like I need to know, I need to have a brief conversation with you. I have a little questionnaire because I really want to use every minute of our time together wisely and help you. And so I already kind of have a good idea based on conversation and brief questionnaire of what we need to tackle during that time. And it's always something different.
Yeah. So like you said before, they might have an idea in mind, but then when they sit down and talk to you, you kind of uncover some other things that they might not even see. Yeah, it's probably all the time.
The last one I did, it was interesting because that's exactly what happened. It was about a staffing issue that they wanted to discuss with me. And we ended up solving some big issue about their social media.
Oh.
And so there was nothing going into it that I thought we were going to discuss about their social media platforms and how they were handling it. Or the strategy involved, and he ended up being like, "Oh my gosh, this was amazing! I didn't realize blah blah blah." It was about social media, and we thought it was going to be about something else. So that happens sometimes.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I'm so happy that you came on the show, Sherry. It's been really nice to see you and talk to you again, and I'm excited about your Jolt session. I need to figure out how to schedule that for myself. Except I don't really know. Like I've got so many things that I feel like I need to address. I don't know. Like it's a continuous evolution of just stuff that needs, like, it's always a bunch of balls in motion. It's like, I don't know what to grab from the sky, but
well, hit me up. I'll be happy to help you. We'll figure it out.
Well, thank you so much, Sherry, for being on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed. I want to keep going. I'm so proud of you too, because like you said, we don't see each other often, but you're always, if there's an opportunity where I can get you involved, I'm thinking about you and just watching from afar through social media and just, cheering and so proud of you.
That means a lot to me. Thank you so much, Sherry. It's hard to sit still. And I'm finding that working is kind of a coping mechanism. And so I feel like I'm probably not the only one that would say that. I'm probably the only one that might admit it publicly. But I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot. I just keep on going. I fail to smell the roses though.
Yeah. You might need to work on that work-life balance thing.
Yes, I need some help. But I appreciate you, Sherry. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much again.
Yes, I know your podcast is going to be a huge success, like everything you touch. And thank you again for having me.
I appreciate that. That is so sweet. Thank you so much, Sherry. Have a wonderful day.
Take care.
I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, please subscribe to Making It to Market wherever you listen to podcasts or listen from our website, makingittomarket.com. Thank you for your honest 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And a special thanks to our show sponsors. Without your support, I wouldn't be able to do this. As you know, Making It to Market is a new show, and I need your help to get the word out. Feel free to share links to your favorite episodes. You don't want to miss the next one. If there's a topic you'd like to hear, have a comment, or even a question you'd like for me to address, feel free to leave me a voice message on our podcast phone line. And if we air your question or comment in an upcoming episode, we'll send you a Making It to Market t-shirt or mug. Details are in the show notes. Before you leave, check out this local musical duo from Houston, Texas, my friends KimandBill.com. Thanks for listening. Until the next time, make decisions that make a difference.
Growing up, I was hooked